ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a great and wonderful day. And we are here. So we're going to be talking about the Son of Hamas / what is going on in these type of places. And most of this is to catch the reality of things that are going on in Hamas and stuff like that. What the reality of what the Hamas and Palestinian series is and all that. Now, I have some things queued up here as we go through some things. And we're not going to be going through the entire video here of, obviously, of the Jordan Peterson with Mosab Hassan Yousef, because there's no reason to. If you guys want to watch the full thing, you guys can go onto Jordan Peterson's channel and actually watch the full actual video. And that's just the way it will be. However, when it comes to stuff like this, I think people need to start realizing the actual reality of what they're advocating for, what they're going for, and how they're being trained. Now, obviously, there is numerous reports of what's been going on here, of the whole UCLA people were not actually students. So we have to go over that as well, and then this will kind of further tie into on the situation in Hamas and all these other areas that we deem as a problem, right? Because what we need to start understanding here is that we, as I said before, the Biden administration is wanting to send Gaza refugees to the United States. And in order for you guys to understand on how bad that is and why that's a terrible idea, is that you have to kind of understand from Mosab Hassan Yousef's idea, where he is the man that has gone through this. Now, you guys have to start listening to people that are really good. I think that not everybody that has been in these eras or in these places are necessarily, you should always 100% listen to them. I think you should always have your own opinions and stuff like that. However, I'm trying to learn from people that have lived in this conflict, lived in this place. Because obviously, I don't live in these places. Trying to explain on how I know exactly on how Russia government rules does not, it's insanity. Because I don't live there. The only thing I do know is that what Russia does is that Russia has a very huge problem of their people protesting. And if they protest, it can lead to problems or whatever. It allows them to be arrested or whatever. What they do to those people, I don't fully know. I'm assuming they either are ended or they are arrested, etc., etc. So I don't know what happens there. However, this man, Mosab Hassan Yousef, has clearly lived this life. He has gone through horrible tragedies, horrible things. I plan to read his book to understand more, and then I will probably come back to this as well on what's going on with Mosab Yousef in his actual life. He does explain his life a bit, and that's a good thing because we get to understand what he did as a child, what he went through as a child, what the tragedies and horrors he had to go through, and all these things. Because these are things that we have to know on how the actual Hamas people act and look, and their morality, and what they are in the society. Because we don't know, and I don't think these kids don't know, and I don't think what these kids are advocating for. As we've seen before, to where some of these students just have no idea what they're advocating or are going for. They just want to be in there in the moment. So, what we want to do here is to try to resolve that. Now, again, we're going to have a lot of things here. UCLA protesters, not really students. I think this is what we're going to do with it. And I think we have some stuff. So yeah, I'm doing a little bit of work here with the Reddit. Don't threat. I am not trying to get information from Reddit. What I'm trying to do is try to see where all this information is coming from, where some of these states, and I'll go into the actual Hamas whole thing with Mosab. But I'm trying to let some people filter in here. It takes I usually do the stream starting 10 minutes early, and then I will try to let some people filter in. But we will get to this. But I want to, because the reason why I want to get some of these things from the protesters not being from the UCLA, that they're not actually students. A lot of them were people from the side or whatever job or what have you. It's because it ties into the actual information that we have here that that will help expand the picture a bit. All right, yes. So yeah, here we go. So we have this here as well. In nearly half of NYC arrests involve people not affiliated with schools, officials say. So that we need to go over this as well, and I will. So first off, before we get into anything too crazy here, we're gonna go into Mosab Hassan Yousef, and this is to kind of explain on who he really is. After I explain who this guy is, we will go into the actual big meaty part of this. So, Mosab Hassan Yousef is also called the Green Prince, is a Palestinian ex-militant who defected to Israel in 1997. Thereafter, working as an undercover agent for the Shin Bet until he moved to the United States in 2007, his father is Sheikh Hassan Yousef as a co-founder of Hamas. So, again, when we're talking about this man, he is the actual son of Hamas. His father is the co-founder. So, and he had to excommunicate from his father because some of the things that he was going on. So, again, this is things that we have to understand here of who Hassan Yousef is, son of Hamas, which is his father co-founded Hamas. So now we know who this man is, give a brief example of who he is. So we will go to here. Now, the only reason why I am doing, there is very, very many interviews with this man. However, there's only two videos that I kind of want to, or not two videos, but two interviews rather, that I want to show. One is with the Dr. Phil one, which, again, we're not going to show the popular clip to where he's arguing with the two women about Hamas and pro-Palestine, because I think, one, first off, I think a lot of people have seen that, and two, that's not where I want to highlight some of these things, because the point of the matter is that what he says here in the Jordan Peterson interview will correlate to this here, will correlate to this here, and then it also correlates to the nearly half of NYC arrests involve people not affiliated with schools. This will go here, and then this will also correlate to the Biden administration doing this citizenship and all this stuff. So all this is intertwined and connected, guys. So once we get that here, I'll show you the actual thing. So here we are. So what we're talking about here is what globalized the Palestinian cause. And I think what we have to understand is what Hassan Yousef is talking about here. Now, I took a couple of days to watch this, and the background and what have you, and this is what I have come up with so far with this information. So, be as it may, this is all the information that I have. So, I think the first thing I'm going to do here is probably do this one here, right? I'll probably do this one here, and then after that I will go into the bits of the chapters and stuff like that of this. There's only maybe 3 or 4 chapters I'm going to go through, and one chapter I will correlate to this here, so we'll see. So without further ado, finally we start.
You're informed with regards to the situation there because it's unbelievably complicated, and so I think people take sides and make opinions without knowing the first thing about what's actually happening. And so I want to ask you a bunch of really basic questions. And first question I'd like to ask you is, what is Hamas exactly? How would you characterize it?
before actually we say what is Hamas, we need to ask ourselves what is Palestine?
Okay.
Because Palestine is non-existential. And it was never a country. It's not ethnic group. It's not a religion. It's not a faith. It's a colonial entity created by the British that lived for about 25 years. And Jews, Arabs, Druze, Christians, Zionists were called Palestinians.
Have a little bit of knowledge on this. So, essentially what this is that it was all due to the Great War in Britain, and some of these happened from between like the 1940s to I would even say some of the 1950s, and he's not really wrong here in this instance. Of course, I can't have any way to really dispute any of his claims. However, if you go look on Google and then you look on the Wikipedia or any of these other things to us recreating to Palestine or any other places of Israel, you will find out that the Great Britain had control and chose Israel as one of the places to have it, right? So this happened before the conflict, and he's going to explain exactly on how the conflict happened and why there's so much contention. It was mostly just Hamas and the Palestinian people really starting all of this. The Jews didn't actually start all this, and this is not me trying to defend Jews or Israel or what have you. I am just trying to give you the actual accurate information of what truly really happened there in that whole situation. As I said, I don't care about Israel. I don't care about Hamas. I don't care about any of these, or Palestine, or whatever. I don't care about either of these factions. One, because it has nothing to do with me. Their war has nothing to do with me. And two, it's beyond my knowledge of knowing so. I want to get a bit of research to kind of understand what's really going on there, have a brief understanding. But he knows significantly more. He lived this. He lived through it, and this is something that we have to understand. And again, I don't care about these other countries. I really don't. You guys can go and call me a Jew hater or what have you. I really don't care at the end of the day. Because, again, this conflict has nothing to do with me. And I'm going to see to it that it has nothing to do with me. But he's also trying to instigate as well that it may have something to do with me because these guys have a broader plan on everything.
Before the termination of the British Mandate. It was called the British Mandate of Palestine. So the mandate itself had the name Palestine. Now,
right, and this is all taking place after World War I,
after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire.
Right. So the empire collapses. There's questions about how the political boundaries should be drawn. The British establish this state known as Palestine. And so what should people think about that exactly? Like, what do you think people should think about the fact that the British were involved? I mean, they won World War I and the Ottoman Empire collapsed. So there was some mopping up to do. And often those things are done in a hurry and with less than optimal information, let's say.
Yes. Well, the Ottoman Empire continued for about 400 years. During that time, they ethnically cleansed the Jewish people from their land, which explains why the Jewish people were all over the place.
So, again, this is part of the reason why I think people don't really kind of like understand where the Jews kind of came from in the first place, or rather, kind of the travesties or horrors that they had to go through. So even back in the World War One, which if we want to actually go look at World War One here real quick, World War One, the actual dates or what have you, we want to do this, started in 1918, right? Or July 28, 1914, and then November 11th, 1918. So that's essentially 4 years. So this is the instigation of World War One, and with this, you get to see that the Jews been having it hard since forever ago, right? It wasn't until the Holocaust, which is started as well. These are things that we talk about. That the Jews have had it rough for almost a century now, guys. Like, they have had it pretty rough. And so I can see why on how Jews have been beaten up for so long, why they are the way they are sometimes when it comes to sometimes of Jewish hatred. Because, I mean, they just don't want the Holocaust and all these other travesties to constantly happen to them. All right? This is just kind of reality.
After World War One and all the atrocities and the persecution of the Jewish people, they felt the need to seek a refuge, and the homeland was the best option for the Jewish people. Now, this led to clashes between the colonizer, which was the British Empire, and the Jewish people. The Jewish people fought for their independence and they shed blood in the process. Also, the Arabs did the same. In 1948, when the United Nations divided the land, given the opportunity to the Jews and the Arabs to build and establish their own states, the Jews declared their independence, but the Arabs declared war against the Jews. And I think this is a very important point to understand. There was no such a thing as Palestine. And when we talk about the British mandate of Palestine, it was never a state. It was just a transitional period from the collapse of the Ottoman Empire to the termination of the British mandate. And that was less than 28 years.
So that termination was in 1948?
In 1947.
Okay.
As I said before, like they reached consensus with the 1940s, which I said 1947, where Great Britain kind of said this. So he went even elaborated even further on the actual situation of Palestine, that it wasn't really a place. So the Jews had this place first. The Jews have gone on. I may believe I did a video on this as well, to where the Jews had control over all those areas, etc., for the longest period of time, right? That's just the way it was. And now it's just the Arabs or the Hamas people are saying, oh, well, the pro-Palestine or the pro-this. Well, it didn't actually exist. I mean, it wasn't really a thing or a place back then. And you would know that if that's the case, it was just like, it was just being demanded and being talked about and stuff like that and what have you, and all this stuff got resolved in 1947. Just like go look at some of these things, like the Palestine or whatever, and the situations, and you'll find on Google that these are the situations that are happened here. Like this is all here. So you can easily find out that the Palestinian people are not really too great on telling the truth. It's based on a lot of lies that's been going through here. Now, I'm not saying the Jews are perfect in all this, because I don't think that they are, but again, at the same time, I think the Palestinian people, the Hamas people, they're lying consistently. And it kind of goes part of the course, because these people are going around burning our American flag, hating America, obviously, and this is something to be talked about. Now, here, I'm going to start talking about some of these other things here that's been going on, right? So, this is the chaos of Yasar Yefat. I don't know how to pronounce some of these names, so I apologize in hand. So, again, what we're going to do here is that we're going to skip here. I'm not showing you guys everything, as I said. If you want to see the whole actual interview, go and watch it yourselves. But what I am here doing is getting some things that are trying to clarify what's tying into what the Biden administration is doing here, all right? Because this is technically the whole main point of this, right? This is the whole main point of this here. And I have to give you guys some backstory, some realization of what is going on, what Hamas really is, to tie into why this here is bad. Besides just on the surface level of it just being bad. Because people are going to think that, like, oh, okay, well, we understand this is bad, but, I mean, I don't see how bad it could be. And you people need to have the full context and the full realizing on how bad it is. Because I think you guys don't realize on how bad it is. I mean, after watching this, I learned on how bad it really is if Biden is allowing these refugees people coming here. Because that just means more destruction, and then this also ties into this here. Why that is also not. It's just horrible, guys. So without further ado, again, this one here is the chaos. Sorry, Arafat or Arafat. I don't know. He'll pronounce it correctly. And then we'll jump into this one here, and then we're skipping a lot of this and just this here. So we're not going too far.
What's the definition of Intifada?
Chaos. People call it uprising, but the very definition, not only of Intifada, of Palestine, very similar definitions. It's chaos, it's disorder, it's anti-establishment.
How does it arise?
Or simply Yasser Arafat sitting in Tunisia. This is supposed to be the father of the Palestinian revolution.
The same Yasser Arafat who died with like $4 billion. That
a lot
Yasser
more.
Arafat.
A lot more. Yasser Arafat was an Egyptian con artist. He was born in Egypt with an Egyptian accent. It was so obvious to know that he's Egyptian, but everybody was in denial that he's Palestinian, and he is the father of the Palestinian revolution. After they were kicked out of Jordan, of Lebanon, and they ended up in Tunisia, some 2,000 miles away, they came up with the idea to engineer the Intifada. They wanted trouble, but from within. They knew that this could be a lot more effective than trying to destroy Israel from outside. And they sent children to die. This has been their mechanism, their strategy.
And who's they?
You guys are going to soon start to see on, like, kind of, this is now getting into the dark side of Hamas and the dark side of what this is. I think you guys will understand on where we are here with this place. Now, as he said here, the chaos started within the actual place, which was the birth of the Palestinian issues and all that stuff. And this is going to explain on what's really going on here, what the Sandia of it all. Now, I don't think we're going to actually get to 2 hours in this actual thing, because again, I'm not doing the full interview. I'm only doing brief parts of it. And I think what we're seeing here is this the complete chaos of where this all began and what have you. Because right now we have the introduction to what is Palestinian, what really happened there, or in particular in terms of how Palestine was not really a place necessarily, and whereas this here is explaining the chaos and everything that started from this, and then we'll see the actual globalized culture, because the globalized culture is the big thing that we have to look at too, which we're also going to tie into this one here.
When I say they, all those who are complicit in this continuous crime, all those who sacrifice children for power and for money. It's a fundamental part of that culture. We have to understand this. First was the ideological dimension that I told you about. Then sacrificing children is not something that make them feel guilty. It's acceptable in that culture. So now, as a student, masked men used to come, and we were just 5th and 6th grade. We were very young. And they would force all students to evacuate the school. They paralyzed the educational system. They paralyzed economy, transportation, and they wanted complete chaos. And until today, I ask myself, if you were fighting against Israel, why would you stop the education and the economy and all other aspects of the Arab life in the West Bank?
So essentially what he is saying here is that these people that came in here and did this, they were destroying the inside of what was going on in either the Palestinian area or the Hamas area or what have you, or wherever this is taking place. So the inside of the actual culture in itself, which we will get to, is being disrupted as he's saying here. And they, instead of going after Israel, which I may believe was to indoctrinate kids, which again, this will go back into what is kind of happening in the U.S. here, where we're trying to indoctrinate children and other people because these kids just don't have no ability to think rationally anymore. They're indoctrinating kids and destabilizing their own way of life and how the country and how that area prospers. That's not really a good idea, right? Like, that's usually negative. If you're going to go on and take on a country, you want to make sure that your economy and everything is in the best way possible, and what have you. You can't really do that if you're destabilizing something within and causing mayhem or chaos. That makes no sense. As I always say, people are stronger united than they are divided. And honestly, these people are only strong as of right now, very slightly, because they're united. Once they're divided, they just start doing the heinous acts to each other. So again,
this is what intifada means. So instead of going to school, we stayed at home for the first 2 or 3 years of the first Palestinian intifada. We did not go to school. Mm-hmm. Now, instead, many of the children got engaged in stone throwing, and this became our game. I was part of that game. And many of my friends got shot in the process, throwing stones at the IDF or what we used to call them settlers, just clashing. Of course, many civilians got hurt in the process.
The key point here that I want you guys to start seeing with the whole settler thing. We have seen from Hassan Piker, the communist, the pro-Palestinian apologist, the lover of, the hatreder of America and stuff like that. He says that babies are settlers, which doesn't make sense considering the fact that people can't control where they're born at, right? So say, since you're being born in China and you're Muslim, you don't have control on where you're born or where you're coming from or what have you. It's just not possible. You are born to where you are born. Same thing to us, like, you don't get to choose whether you're born in a wealthy family or a poor family. You're just born. And to say that babies are settlers and then you have the right to say kill said babies, it's completely asinine. There is no defense of that, alright? Like, you cannot go and defend that, like, oh, well, yep, these babies died. Well, first off, babies are 100% innocent. There are no, my honest belief, I don't think there is a single evil baby imaginable. Now, maybe we can start saying there might be some, like, evil kids or whatever, maybe ages 1 through 5, which, again, I don't think that's normally the case. If kids normally turn out to be like that, it's because the parents are garbage and they just have no agency whatsoever. But most kids are not evil, alright? Let's put that plain and clear. And what these people are doing, what this group of people are doing, are having kids go and commit very dangerous acts of throwing stones or doing things to the IDF or what have you, some getting shot or killed, and this is what this organization, what these group of people are doing. They're having kids go do these things and threatening these kids' lives due to this. It's completely insane. So right now, you're already having a group of people that is having kids throw stones at another group of people that have guns and that they end up getting fired upon. I don't know what type of group or country would allow their kids to go do these things, and that's the insanity part here, right? That's the insane part, and this is the crux of how these people act. And again, this is not even getting into the full-on culture of this situation, right? The full-on culture. No. Like, the culture is still coming. That's the reason why here I have global stuff like that and what have you. And I'm not going to do the Biden thing. And then after we do the globalized Palestinian cause, we will do, finally, a culture that kills the victim. So, again, it's insane.
So they did not want us to go to schools, and I did not understand why. Mm-hmm. What about the economy? What about the people who were forced to shut down their stores? And if they did not obey, they became traitors. And in the morning, they came back to their stores and they were burnt down to ashes. So by the means of intimidation, Yasser Arafat sitting in luxury, like Haniya today sitting in luxury in Qatar. And what's in common between all these con artists? That they were outsiders.
So, put this in perspective, people, where if you're trying to make a living and you need money, right? And you need to feed your family or what have you, and these group of people are saying, no, you don't get to work today, close down your store, or we will kill you or your family or burn down your store. He doesn't say kill your family, obviously, but when you learn more about this, you'll get to see that they will go to these lengths to have a form of intimidation or evilry. That's just kind of the way they act. And that means you're just not making money that day. You're just not making money, and then that means that you're being more poor than usual. Because if you're not able to make actual money here, then I don't know what to tell you. Then you can't feed, you can't do anything, you can't prosper. So it's really just making the people poor that are poor poorer because you're being forced to shut down your store.
Living outside while they wanted the children to die on their behalf. Because what really globalized the Intifada or the Palestinian cause.
We're getting into what globalized the Palestinian cause, which obviously he just said that, but I just kind of want to get you knows where part we're getting into here. So you'll see on what globalizes this, and then we'll go into the very big meat of it, which is the culture, which is what you people need to understand.
Is the children. During the first Palestinian Intifada, when the world saw a child in the face of a modern army, that was outrageous, and everybody sympathized with the cause.
So how did the leaders of the Intifada benefit personally from putting children on the front line? What's the money pipeline precisely? I mean, Arafat ended up with an absolute bloody fortune, like an insane fortune, and I know the same thing is happening, but how exactly is that monetized? It's the suffering of children produces an influx of foreign aid that's then pocketed, essentially?
Yes, because on one hand, they delegitimize Israel. Israel become a child killer.
Right.
Then there is no one in the world that does not sympathize with children dying.
Right.
So there is no more destructive or powerful weapon in the hands of a corrupt revolution that don't want to fight. They don't have the courage to actually fight in combat, but they prefer that their children would die on their behalf. In the meantime, delegitimize Israel and globalize their cause. The international community don't know the reality 100% on the ground. They don't understand this game. Even up to now, they see Hamas using children as human shields, which is very obvious. This is what Hamas wanted from this war.
And this is what Hamas has been doing with Israel. Now, here's the thing that we have to put into perspective here. When it comes down to the war that's happening against Israel and Hamas, Hamas is using children, using civilians to not have their places get attacked. And that is a very cowardly and terrible thing to do. Because here's their plan here, in which it does have some type of effect. They have the civilians or children, or both, sit in this military complex or military area where they would get attacked. And if you bomb these said places, which I think some of these people that were some of the civilians that are there or whatever are there forcefully in a way where they don't want to do it, because Israel has said that they want the people to evacuate and give them time to run, and I don't think these people particularly can run. And the point of the matter is that these people are have these civilians and kids here, and if you attack this said place, and these civilians and kids die, they can go and say, "Oh, look, they're attacking civilians as well as when there's a military outpost here." That's their plan here. It's to politically make it look bad, and this is the reason why we cannot have emotion drive what's going on here. Because I understand that Israel should not have to go and kill civilians, and I don't think Israel really wants to go kill civilians. I mean, they have tried to evacuate the civilians and stuff like that. So, yeah, but what we need to see here is that the civilians in particular here are the actual true weapon of Hamas, because they're trying to build it to across the U.S. on how bad Israel is, and this is just the way they're doing things. I mean, it's kind of obvious. And again, as I always said, to completely avoid civilian actual war here is impossible. You could try your best to have these civilians evacuated, but if the civilians, such as the people, as like, when it comes to hurricanes and stuff like that, well, like in Florida, we're like, no, I don't want to leave. I want to stay. I want to stay in my home, and then they inevitably end up dying because of staying in their home. That's not really that's their fault. You can't really blame the government for saying like, oh well, these people died or what have you. Whatever. It's like there's only two methods here. One is to forcibly remove them or have them or stay, and if they die to the natural storm for them staying, that's not really that's not really the government's fault at that point. And trust me, I'm not trying to defend the government because I hate the government. But again, if those people are there's either a couple of things here. They're either being forced against their will to stay there, or they're willingly staying there to actually help not do things, and then at that point, like, there's no point. Like, if the people won't evacuate and the other side is trying to help them evacuate so they can do war procedures and stuff like that, then, well, I don't know what to really tell you. I mean, you can't really do anything about that. If they're just going to stay in a war zone and you're at war, you're either telling them to just not defend themselves or not go to war, or they just go to war and end up hurting civilians in the process. I mean, there is just no avoiding it. It's kind of the same thing in Ukraine, slightly, because the things in Ukraine, so there's civilians that are just staying there, just stay there, and then there's actual civilians where Russia just bombed a hospital for no bloody reason, right? Like, you just don't bomb a hospital, all right? You just don't do that. You don't go attack willingly civilians areas. But if you're going to go and attack places that's a military compost and stuff like that, and civilians end up getting killed in the process, well, that's unfortunate. That's collateral damage. Like, as much as it sounds, that's just reality. But you can try your best to minimize civilian damage. Like, the grape of Nashkin example is a good example of this, because they just went and killed and raped all these civilians. Alright? That's what happened. They killed all of them. And did horrible, horrible atrocities to these people. That is not the same to where somebody is trying to actively evacuate people and then they end up killing civilians accidentally in the process where that was not their main goal. The main goal of Japan there at that situation was to kill and do these horrible atrocities in this area. There's two completely different things here, and that's what people need to start understanding.
The international community is still in denial. Mm-hmm. So when children die, this will lead to more chaos. It would lead to war. It would lead to, today, a global chaos. But how do you deflate the tension? You deflate the tension by going to the middleman, pay him off, and he's going to stop the madness. Mm-hmm. And this is how they paid off Yasser Arafat, paid off Hamas. This is the Gaza war today. This is not the first one. Mm-hmm. This is the fifth one. Mm-hmm. And every time Hamas started the war, they used human shields. Children died. Mm-hmm. Hamas exaggerated the numbers, the statistics. They weren't accurate. The international community bent over and submitted to a ceasefire, which basically guaranteed Hamas staying in power. Mm-hmm. But now how do you silence Hamas for a while? by giving them lots of money. But this time, Hamas thought they could double down on human shields by putting booby traps all over the place. Schools, hospitals, mosques. They did not leave any secret location in Gaza without using it as a shooting pad. Digging hundreds of miles of tunnels beneath one of the most populated areas on Earth.
And how come that wasn't widely known? How come that wasn't widely known in the West?
Well, this is obvious. But the world is in denial because it's much easier to condemn Israel. When we have close to 2 billion Muslims repeating a certain narrative, a false narrative that is baseless, that say Palestine, and we say the very foundation of this narrative, there is no such a thing as Palestine. It never existed. But everybody suddenly became a pro-Palestine.
It fits into the oppressor-oppressed narrative, right?
It's the victim
absolutely.
narrative. It's the victim mentality.
Yeah,
so now, even in the United States, the anti-bankers, those who are in debt or
This is a big, big, big problem with me. I really hate victim complex people because they can never be at fault, they can never be at wrong. And this is what we have in society. And I think part of the reason why we have this issue here with the morality part of, of them using human shields is that we also have the thing too with abortion, which has completely, I think, eroded some people's actual morality here. Because any type of morality would tell you that, like, trying to do an abortion is just completely stupid. I mean, there is no... the way I put it is for women to remove accountability entirely from their lives and not have to take any accountability whatsoever. That's just my opinion on that matter. I have very bigger opinions on it, but this is not really about abortion. This is more along the lines of tying into our morality in the U.S., specifically in the Western area, is just completely destroyed. It's just not great. And we can't see the morality here. And we also just don't want to believe. And people have to turn their blind eye to the truth. Because the truth is just slap in the face that people just cannot stand most of the time. When the truth comes and hits you, they try to ignore it. And then if you try to show them the said truth, they start attacking you, they'll call you names, etc., because they just don't want to deal with it. And the truth just really, really hurts. To know the truth does not feel great, but you can move on past this and find out for what it is. And this is just what the group of people are. And again, this is what we're talking about, the globalized stuff. And we're going to jump into the culture, and this will lead into everything else.
Establishment. Communists, feminists, socialists, Islamists are coming in the same room protesting or opposing as pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
Well, what is Palestine? Well, you are extreme opposites that you should not be in the same avenue at all.
Yeah.
Without Israel, you would be conspiring to destroy each other, Islamists and communists.
Clearly.
But suddenly now you are pairing.
Yeah.
So this phenomenon of Palestine, it shows you falsehood versus truth.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's something really fundamental to that victimizer narrative, right? That's underlying all of this. And if you can tap into that, then you certainly get all the left-wing radicals on your side instantly, because they're, of course, 100% bought into the victimizer narrative, and it enables them to explain the world and also to be moral, because all you have to do is identify with the hypothetical victim. The thing I see happening in Palestine, and you can clear up any misconceptions on my part, is like, I've thought for decades that the Palestinians are sacrificial victims for any outside powers that want to delegitimize Israel. And then it doesn't matter how many Palestinians die, because they're essentially expendable. And that seems to me particularly true in relationship to Iran. So it's completely in Iran's fundamental interest to foment this chaos that you described. It's not in the best interest of the Palestinians in anything like the medium to long run, but it doesn't matter as long as the trouble keeps occurring. It's hard on Israel. It's hard on the United States. It helps Iran maintain its iron grip. It obviously seems to me obvious that many people in the Arab world are waking up to that, have woken up to that. I think that's why the Abraham Accords have more or less held through this, because there are powerful forces allied against Iran, most fundamentally, but it's in their best interest to keep the misery in Palestine going as long as it possibly can. And my suspicions are that what happened on October 7th was command directly, please, feel free to disagree with me, but this is how it looks to me, is that the Iranians decided that it was time to stir the pot, and they produced this massacre, and they hope they provoke Israel into exactly the sort of reaction that Israel is having, and that Israel would take the threat extraordinarily seriously and move in. And as their military victory mounted, public opinion would turn against them and it would fragment the Abraham Accords. I suspect that was their plan. What do you think about that? Is that in accordance with your understanding of the situation?
Absolutely. This is Iran's attempt to actually rearrange the region.
Right.
Have Hassan Yousef kind of explain this in that point. But I don't want to go to this again. If you guys want to watch it, just go straight up and talk about this type of stuff. So what we're going to do here is that finally we're getting into the meat and greedy of it, the main point of this whole stream, the whole point. So now that we're done pretty much with the introductions here, we can kind of go show the actual culture of the whole situation, right? So what we would do here is that this is a culture that kills the victim, and you guys need to understand that the culture, how bad this place is, because again, this is also leading to this, okay? Because the culture will reverberate into our country, and these people don't have a sense of morality. I don't think these people have a sense of morality, because if they did, things would be different, and they do not have a sense of morality, and this is very dangerous to the American people right here.
To delegitimize Israel and the United States, and to redound to the credit, let's say, of the Iranians operating in the background. You're seeing all the consequences of this firsthand. You decide that, for a variety of complicated reasons, you decide that you're going to face your fear of death. You have this graveyard next. You're going there to investigate and to experiment. What was the consequence of doing that for you? And then how does that tie in with your transformation of worldview over time?
When I was very young, and this is stuff I don't like to talk about because I choose not to be a victim. And also I don't like to become vulnerable because people think that you are weak. Mm-hmm. Stuff that I don't have to talk about, but I think there is no way around it. Because many people ask, what motivates you and where are you coming from? When I was very, very young, I was raped in a culture that would kill the rapist, but also they would kill the rape victim. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I never told anybody about that story. I never got any support. And
how old were you?
I was 5 or 6 years old when that happened. Now, I had to heal on my own, and it was a hell of a journey in a society that did not have mercy, that they preferred that I would disappear so I don't bring shame on them.
Right.
And I witnessed so many women being killed after being raped, that the father would prefer to kill his daughter to bury the shame with her, not to have to face the society that his daughter was raped.
So again, you guys probably know that this is something that I will probably make this into a YouTube type thing as well, because I want you guys to understand here what I mean by this. So if we go into the community here, and we look at this, not this here, but if we go to this here, where I said, this was happened about a month ago, right? before videos today, I figured I'd just post it. So apparently committing a very violent and disgusting crime is now justified in resistance for them. And, of course, you know, and this is the insanity part of it, right? And they have this here that says this: rape is resistance. Free Palestine by any means necessary. And this is something that you see here that is disturbing, right? Because I want to take this clip, and I will take this clip very easily, and say, and tie this into here. Because, listen, we have this where they're saying, where in a culture for these people, that if the woman is raped in this situation here, they go kill the woman and the rapist. Now, I agree that the rapist should be killed, because I don't think that these monsters should be allowed to roam the earth. But the fact that you are going to also kill the rape victim is insanity to me. And we have this here to where we're saying that rape is resistance. This is insanity here, guys. This is the core issue to what we have here in that society. So, again, if we're going to have them come into here, the refugees, these people have no morality, at least the men here, have no morality of saying, oh, okay, well, I can just go and rape you, and this is fine, and if that happens, they'll just kill. We cannot have this be a thing here, guys. This is insanity. We cannot have this we cannot be having these people coming into our country. Their culture is completely out of whack. Like, we cannot be having this. That's not good. Then, like, think about this, guys. Think about this. And then the places that all these atrocities will be happening to is, will be happening in, like, New York, some of the Texas areas, and mostly Florida, because the majority of the places are in Florida. But this is insane, guys. Like, we can't be having these type of people, this type of thing happen. Like, that's insane. These people have no sense of morality, and we're still not done. We're only halfway through that one part here, and that's insane. And I might even do the aim to reform a generation, because this may actually count a little bit in here, but that's the crazy part.
What type of mentality is this? What type of religion is this? And this is not just a culture. Okay.
Does it reflect on his inability to protect her? Is that the source of the shame?
It's his status.
It's his status.
It's his, the father of, he could not protect his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now maybe the daughter is pregnant. Mm-hmm. This was before abortion, etc. Okay, the daughter is pregnant. What is he going to do with the child? No, he prefers to kill the daughter. He does not want to go even to the degree that his grandchild is a result of a rape incident. So, and from the 7th century in Islam, or in Arabia, they killed infants. So when I say sacrificing children, this is not coincidental. It's rooted in that culture.
That is just so insane to me, guys. Now, do you guys understand where women are exactly in these places? If you are a woman and you are great there, you are killed, among many other things, right? Tell me here, guys, when you're fighting for women's rights in the Western area, which women have all these rights, where is all this pushback and forthwith of in the Arabian countries where this is happening to women, where they're raped and they're executed for it? Like, hello? And if we're going to be these pro-choice, this all this type of stuff, things where women have the choice, right? She doesn't even have the choice to keep the child because she gets killed in the process of wanting to keep the child. Even after rape and stuff like that, right? So it's going to show on how complete out of whack these far left, these woke people are, because again, these woke people are advocating for this type of stuff, but completely ignoring the fact that these women are living in constant and adjective fear in Saudi Arabia for all these vile acts. Could you imagine here in the U.S., in the States, to where there is a woman that is raped, and then she's the one that is just killed because the father just doesn't like the shame? Now, I can understand and the frustration, and I in this instance, right? And it's not me trying to sympathize with these people. I can understand if I was a father, even if I was a husband to somebody else, and they got raped by any man. The shame that I would feel of not being there to protect my wife or my daughter, to this instance, would probably shatter me, because my job is to protect my child. However, there is no way that I would go and kill my child after they went through such a horrific event, or my wife. There is no way I would go and do this. So these men, in quotation marks, but they're not men, by the way, they are savages, they are monsters, because they have shame and and their standing in society is brought down, which, by the way, I have no problem with my standing being brought down at all if it has down to where my daughter or my wife had this atrocity happen to them, because I am not going to kill them because of what the tragedy that they went through. I will not do this. But these people will go and kill them, their wife or their daughter, because they don't want the shame or their standing to go down. That is evil, people. That is evil. That is not a form of greatness. That is evil, and this is what the Biden administration wants to bring these people into here. Guys, come on.
So for me, it was unjust that I had to actually carry the burden instead of getting the support from the family, from the society, like at least to come and say, who did it? Mm-hmm. Today I'm 45 years old, I'm a very strong man. I can confront the whole universe if necessary. And up to now, none of them asked the question, who did it? And by the way, I had the power to kill the predator down the road. He's probably living in a nightmare why I didn't actually harm him, because later on, I got lots of power, even when I was back in the territory, but I chose not to. Instead of going after the rapist, I went after the belief system. And this is where I need to create the change.
I see.
So what's so-called Islam, and I know this is very sensitive topic. If the belief system, if Allah thinks that the rapist and the raped are equal and they deserve the same punishment, then this God does not have authority over my life. And this is where I start questioning the entire belief system, and I rebelled.
How
Again, this is another thing too, to where I had a whole thing with religion and whatever. I'm going to start saying a little bit about religion and a little bit of stuff like this, right? I am not a person that fully follows the Bible or religious or any Catholic or Christian ideology whatsoever. Now, do I believe that there is a God that exists? Well, I don't know if I can really say that or not, mostly just due to the fact that, like, it's kind of hard to do so. I mean, we may have found, like, Noah's Ark to where that possibly would be the thing. I know there's some evidence to where, like, Jesus has actually lived, and if that is the case, then God does exist. And that's where I'm going to base my actual knowledge or my faith in, I guess you could say, in that respect of God actually existing. But I have gone to deem here as if we're going to put it to where if your religion says, oh, well, you can go and kill people, it's 100% okay, go rape people, it's 100% okay, go commit atrocities, and their God says this, I'm sorry, but I can't form that under, I can't go under that ideology. I always believed, because put this in perspective, right? If God, I really want to run a test here, in particular, right? I want to run a test, or like not a test, but a like a research or a poll, and do research and put it to where a parent treats their tells their kids to not to kill, not to do this, not to do that. Same thing as what the religion does, and then have just the the religion thing the religious thing have it come into effect. Where that was where it's just religion telling you this, and I would like to see where the kid pops out of after like 5-10 years, where his morality lies. Because again, I don't think that your morality is taken from particularly from the Bible. I think that your morality forms, or your aspect of where you view the world, is what happens to you as a person and how your parents raise you, right? That shapes your morality, your concept, or your vision around the world. I don't think religion in this particular case really does that. Now, maybe if we're talking about maybe at the beginning, sure, maybe we can say that religion might have started this at the very beginning. However, I don't do this based off of what religion tells me. Religion never taught me, at least in particular, that killing people is wrong, or stealing from people is wrong, or attacking people is wrong. Mostly my father has taught me these things. Religion didn't really teach me these things, and I, as a person, do not deem as killing people as a morally right thing to do. So, again, this is just something that I don't think religion has any beneficial aspects to this in that respect. Now, some people may disagree, and that's completely fine. But their religion is telling them to do this, and they're abiding by that said religion. And that's what they're saying, that's in their head, that's what they think their God means, right? And that, to me, is not okay. They're abiding by somebody what they're telling them, and then that means that religion is bad. So do we condone and hate this religion? And I'm not saying that we need to abolish religion. I think people should have the right to freely be able to be religious and go to church and stuff like that if they so desire. I don't think we should eliminate religion. I don't really agree with that. I think people should be allowed to do this. However, I just have the opinions to where if I don't think religion really teaches morality in terms of what we think it is. I think kids just learn morality from their parents. That's just the way I think. Maybe religion might have a bigger impact on people. Maybe it really does have a bigger impact or on the morality things when religion teaches to you as long as to your parents. But I don't know, because I don't think there's any research papers that even shows that that's the case. So yeah. So we'll do this here, because this is another thing here. The abuse and the lack of compassion. So we'll do this, and then we'll go to here.
Was the first Palestinian Intifada.
Yeah.
But it looks like I developed so many disorders because of the traumas of childhood. And instead, a society that can understand a child and what's going on, what they did, they beat me up. Everybody. From the Hamas leaders, to my parents, to the teachers at school, to the principal, to the other kids in the streets. Everywhere I went. At some point, I got beaten up by a mob. In fact, in my life, I got beaten up by a mob multiple times, to the point where I went unconscious.
And why were you a target of that sort of violence?
I was just troublemaker. And I am still a troublemaker. It's one of my best qualities. So basically, they wanted me to behave according the religious laws and the cultural laws. But I didn't know I was behaving that way. I just wanted to rebel. There was lots of anger inside me. and there is still lots of anger.
So what were you doing that was causing trouble?
I broke the rules. At the mosque, I played. I just was very playful kid, and they wanted me to just not do anything. If I ran in the mosque, once the imam at the mosque lift me up above his head and throw me flat on my back, where I lost my breath. And in other occasion, I was whipped by a Hamas leader with the electric cable to the point I lost consciousness.
How old were you?
Between the 10 and 18 years old, this is like where the brutality of the society took place. So if I was only a rape victim when I was very young, I would say, okay, that was one event, but come on. Everybody was conspiring against me, and I still wonder why so many forces wanted me dead, and they still don't have compassion to just look and say, it's like, wow, this guy went through a lot. Like maybe, whatever he's saying, he has the right at least to express it. But they want to strip me even the right to talk about it. So it's a brutal culture. When some say what happened on October 7 was barbaric, it's not only Hamas. There is a majority in the Gazan society that is complicit in this crime. In fact, for those who watched the footage of the October 7 crimes, it was not only Hamas that committed crime. Most of the crimes, especially raping and kidnapping, were committed by Gazan civilians. And I know now this is considered, or somebody can discredit me because I'm generalizing, but I say the vast majority of that society don't have mercy when it comes to children, and no woman can walk freely and feel safe at midnight anywhere in the Palestinian territories. This is why a father is willing to kill his daughter if she would leave the house without a companion. Because if she leaves the house without a companion, there's a big chance that she's going to be raped on the streets. And why are you taking such a risk? They would beat them up if they leave the house alone. So it's a troubled society. It's a
You are now seeing the actual evil tree of the society and what is really going on here with them in particular, right? And this is where society is. I hate to bring it to you guys, but this is another reason why the Biden administration are considering the refugees from Gaza permanent safe haven in the U.S. with the access to housing and have pathway to citizenship. Why would you want to give these people that have no morality, no compassion, no nothing into our country? We're essentially inviting animals into our country. We can't be doing this. That's the insanity part. I don't think we should be doing this. Now, we're going to go into here, right? Because that's pretty much all that I had to say there. And we're going to go here, and this is going to just show this from, obviously, from Dr. Phil. And this is only a brief look at what's going on, because I want you guys to understand what the kids do and what the stuff that they go through. Like, they're literally indoctrinated into this type of stuff.
Cleansing. In fact, they succeeded in ethnically cleanse close to 20 Jewish communities. And this shows you their intention. They want to dominate. This was a holy mission. It's a holy war. In Islam, to kill for Allah is a way of worship. This is the stuff that nobody likes to talk about.
Let's take a look at what you're describing in what some of these kids are trained to do at a very young age.
In Gaza and the West Bank, nearly 10,000 teachers and school administrators employed by UNRWA belong to Hamas-dominated unions, which call for the destruction of Israel. UNRWA is financing school curriculums that glorify terror and suicide bombing. Children are being inoculated with the belief that any and all means possible must be used to reclaim Palestine.
UNRWA students openly parade in the streets and call for Israel's destruction. All of this occurs in plain sight, within the watchful eye of UNRWA teachers. These students are between the ages of 8 and 10 and have already received military training.
على حيفا على تل أبيب نموت ولا بنركع نموت ولا بنركع
فلسطين عربية من المي للمية.
كيف عن حق العودة؟
هذا نرمى على اليهود حجار ونذبح اليهود إن نقتل اليهود وندافع عن وطننا.
لو شو ما يصير مش راح يصير سلام.
راح ناخذ حقنا والله ينتقم منهم إن شاء الله يموتوا كلهم.
And parents.
So what do you guys have to say with that? Exactly. These kids are being trained and indoctrinated to kill the Jews. They're saying down with Jerusalem, kill the Jerusalem and stuff like that. And this is just the reality. So, I don't know about you guys, but Hamas is not this great and amazing country. It's not this great, amazing place. These people are monsters, and I think we have to deal with this, right? And then we have this here, is that nearly half of anyone arrested involved people not affiliated with schools, and officials say. It says, what to know about the campus protests. More than 2,000 people have been arrested at pro-Palestinian protests at colleges across the country in the last 2 weeks. At UCLA, overnight, 210 people were arrested when officers cleared an on-campus encampment in a chaotic scene, officials said. Then New York officials said that a significant number of people arrested this week at campus demonstrations were not affiliated with the schools. Nearly 30% of the people arrested at Columbia were unaffiliated with the university, and 60% of the arrests at City College involved people who weren't affiliated with that school, the mayor said. There are dozens of people who have been arraigned in New York. The district attorney said 46 people who were detained at Columbia have been charged with criminal trespass, and 22 people detained at City College were arraigned on one account of burglary and obstructing governmental administration. So yeah, that's just it. So we have people conspiring and doing these things here. So when we get these guys, the refugees here in our country as refugees, and they come to the U.S., do you think they're not going to do the same thing here? Do you honestly think they're just not going to come into our country and do the same thing? This is just the reality that you guys need to understand, and this is the reason why what Biden's doing here is so dangerous. Because if they're going to invite these immoral, these non-compassionate, terrible people into our country, that is the refugees of Gaza, which they don't seem to have any type of moral compass at all, what do you think that's going to happen to our country when we get putting thousands of these people into our country? Do you think they're going to normally assimilate to our country? Do you think they're going to follow our laws? Do you think they're going to do you think they're going to do what's best for our country? No. They're going to burn down American flags. They're going to start protests. They're going to start doing other horrible things in our country because they have no sense of morality. It's not fair. Their culture is completely messed up. They allow women to be great there and then kill the woman for being great. What is the society? I think you guys have learned in the past hour and 24 minutes, a little bit less than that, maybe an hour and 14 minutes, of just seeing how bad that place is and what it means when Joe Biden invites these people here and what tragedies and atrocities are going to happen in our own country. This needs to stop. We cannot be allowing these people into our country. Let the war settle itself between Israel and Gaza, and then maybe make some implementations into what's going on. But the insanity, the evilry, it needs to stop here. Just needs to stop. Alright guys, that's it for this stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'll probably put a little bit of highlights here and there into it, but we'll see how that goes. More stuff coming in tomorrow. So, yeah. Alright guys, that's it.